Hello guys and welcome back to my color grading suite here in Switzerland. My name is Dave and today's look breakdown is an unusual hotel commercial I did a couple of years ago. Before I show you the final look, I want to point out, please stick with me till the end of this look breakdown because I will talk about my biggest mistake I did in my colorist career and I will never make the same mistake again. And this particular mistake was exactly on this project. So please stick with me to be a better colorist in the future. And this is the final look. This was the brief of the director. The hotel commercial is about the spirit of discovery of each individual who goes beyond his own limits and finds new perspectives. The impressive landscape images shape the past and the self-discovery itself. We have three different story levels. First one, the hotel room of Cervo is a retreat and a secure place. The room is the starting point of the journey. Second level, landscape pictures. The place of inspiration and self-discovery. It's like a directional guide. Third level, she in the blue hour reflects her emotion of the journey phase in her. Plus, I took the following additional notes from the director. Naturalistic and organic effect to bring out the magical and pure force of the nature. And now, let's dive into the process. This is the setup on the timeline level. On the first note, I put some grain. I don't go into the detail because it really doesn't matter. And then in the second, I went from red-white gamut to Rec 709 gamma 2.4. And on this one here, I made a group back then for all the interior shots because they matched pretty well together. So in the group post clip, I put contrast of 1.022 overall. And that's basically it. So on this one, this is the hotel room Cervo, and this is the retreat where she feels comfortable and secure, and I don't want to make this room too cool. So of course the skin tone should look nice, but I will not do it really white balance accurate. I will leave some kind of warmish tone in it, just a little bit. We increase the image, the size, and now we look. Yeah, so it is not bad. The skin tone has too much of green tint in it. I will leave a little bit of green here because green is a color where you feel calm and confident, and it represents also the nature. So it's a great starting point for our story. In the first note, exposure wise, I will not change it because it's pretty nice. Maybe the black levels I will lift it up a little bit, but that's it. So in the log wheel, in the shadow, I will lift up the shadows a little bit so the image is a little bit more open. It doesn't feel too mysterious because this is not the point here to feel mysterious. She should feel confident and calm and secure. So before and after, this is a good starting point exposure wise. So now in the second note, with the contrast, I'm pretty happy. And now I will do some kind of white balance. I will not do it this time with offset wheel, not even with the HDR wheel. I just want to make it with the gamma wheel because I want to go subtle with it. I don't want to make it perfectly white balance. So I will focus only on skin tone. And I will implement a little bit of blue and a little bit of magenta so the skin tone will be less green. Something like that. So it's subtle. Before and after, maybe it's too much red in it. I will go a little bit bluer. maybe something like this. Before and after, before and after. I like it pretty much like that. So for now I will leave it, and I check what I can do with the color temperature. So I go down and we will see what happens. So it's too much, 150, so maybe something like that, maybe like 70. Let's check it out. Before and after. That's not bad. It's a good starting point. Maybe a little bit less, maybe 40. So we have a little bit warm in it. Yes, that's good. Then what I want to focus is on the eye here. So we really are into her and questioning us what she is thinking of. So I go here to the parallel node. I go to the window. I take a gradient window and I brighten up the right part of the image, and I do that with the gain. Something like that, not too much, just to really focus on her eye. I go a little bit deeper down, something like that. Let's see. Yes, so we really focus on her a little bit brighter. That's good. Yes, I like that pretty much. Now here I check if I can put a little bit more contrast in it, maybe just a little bit on the black level. So with the lock wheel again, I will darken it down a little bit. Maybe not 03, like up here, maybe 02 something, so we are a little bit deeper down. Yes, now she really stands out. This is a good idea. Yes. So before and after, before and after. Then I will put a vignette in it as the last node. I will go to my circular one. I don't want to lower it down the brightness too much because I made a vignette already there to focus on her, but maybe just a little bit at the edges. With the gain wheel, I invert it. Yeah, it's too much. I reset it just a little bit. So we create more depth into the image, just a little bit. Before the vignette, after the vignette. So we really focus on her. So the next one is a drone shot, and it was shot with D gamut and D lock, and I changed it to red, white gamut and red lock, so like the original red camera footage that I have anyway. As you can see here, everything is red except of the drone shots. So I did that because my timeline color space, I put it to red, white gamut, so the HDR wheels behave, let's say, the same way. On this one, I didn't use the HDR wheels because I didn't felt comfortable with it, but just in case I wanted to make it technically correct for my taste. And now we have too much blue in this image. So first I go with the exposure, I go with the offset. I don't go, like I said, with the HDR because it didn't feel right for me. So I go way down. I go way down because now we are outside and in the nature. And like I said before, the nature, it's like the guidance of the path, and it should feel strong and powerful. So if I go too bright, it is too weak. If I go too dark, of course, we lose everything. So I go something that I like because I want to focus on the sky also, on the color on the sky who brings the forces to the nature. So I go something like that with the offset wheel, let's say. I don't remember exactly how far I went, but I think it was something like that. And then with the gain wheel, I go a little bit darker. So I go with the gain wheel now because it's more gentle. So I want to really make the sky to stand out after the white balance. So I go to the next node, and then again with the offset wheel, I want to go far away from blue. So I want to put this color here in the center of this image. I will introduce a lot of red, something like that. Then it's too much blue for my taste, so I go a little bit into green, a little bit into red. So I really focus mainly on the sky, that it has the right color, something like that. I go back to this node, it feels a little bit too dark, so with the gain wheel I go a little bit up, maybe something like that, because in the foreground I don't care much. The force comes from this Matterhorn mountain and from the sky. So now in the secondary, so in the parallel nodes, I get rid of this bluish tone because it don't need that. It's just a distraction for my taste because it should feel naturalistic and strong. So with the white balance, maybe I do a little bit, I put a little bit more work into it. I go a little bit away from blue, a little bit more, maybe something like that. Yes, so the sky really stands out. And now anyway, in the parallel node, I go into the curves, hue versus sat, and I desaturate all the bluish tones. So really the sky is the main focus. So before the hue versus sat, so I desaturated really all the blues, and now after. Before and after. Now it's more naturalistic. Color of the sky matches the color of the mountain, let's say. So it's not like a separated section. So now it's integrated and naturalistic. That's really important. Then with the vignette, I will darken it down the sky, but just the upper part. So we have even more depth and it feels stronger because now the colors are more vibrant. Before and after, before and after. Then the feedback from the director, I remember pretty well, was like, can we put a little bit more saturation on this part of the image so we feel really the strongness from the mountain and from the sky. I even darken it down and not only saturated the sky. So let's do that again. On the parallel node, I made something like that. Yes, maybe. Let's go a little bit up. Yes. Then we soften it out quite a bit. And now with the Luma key, I will isolate the darkest part of the image, of course, because we want only the brightest part. Something like that. Then with the low softness down here, I make some gradients, softness of the black level, something like that. I blur it just a little bit, and now let's see what happens. So I saturate the colors with the saturation knob down here, and then with the gain wheel I darken it down. The mask, I'm not quite happy. I soften a little bit more and maybe a little bit smaller because it should feel naturalistic and not too overkill. Something like that. And maybe a little bit more red in it. Yes. And then with the vignette node here, I darken it down even a little bit more. So before and after, before and after. I loop it. Yeah, it's pretty nice. I like that. I think in the original version I was not that, let's say, purpley. I go back here and I put a little bit more of cyan in it. Yeah, maybe like that, a little bit green. Yes, this one is closer. Yes, that's good. So next one, the force now here on the water should feel naturalistic and strong. Now with the offset wheel I darken it down, maybe something like that. Yes, something like that. So as you see, if we have such a contrastful image, so from the harsh light from the sun and then deep shadows, it creates already power. So that's why I darken it down. On the next note I go with the lock wheel with the shadows, so I darken it down quite a bit, not that much, so that the darkest level goes really down. And then in the highlights I go, let's say 03, 04, let's try like that, because the image is already dark, so I want to really pick only the brightest part of the image. So I have to go down, maybe like that. Let's check. Not enough, because it's too dark the image. Let's say 0.3. Yes, now I pick only the brightest part of the image to create contrast. Look at that, before and after, before and after. So only the sparkling water gain is going up and not the whole image. So I create really strong picture without implementing with the contrast knob or with the black levels and with the gain too much of contrast overall. I want just to create power, and I did that with darkening down only the darkest part of the image and only the brightest part of the image. Something like that. Let's go further. Let's play that through. Not bad. I think after it I will brighten up the image a little bit, but now we go to the white balance. So let's check the scopes. Yes, as you can see here we have a lot of warmish tone and greenish tone, and this does not represent freshness. So I will implement a lot of blue so that all the highlights are cooling down, and then we go a step further to finesse the look. So stick with me. So now with the white balance I go with the offset and I go into this deep blue. Let's say something like that, not too much, maybe like that, before and after. And now you see how much warmth the image had. Something like that. Of course, I am not a fan for this particular of concept to let the blue tones be that strong, but I want the coolness in the highlights, of course, and in the gamma, etc. But the saturation of the blue, I don't like it. I like only the concept that now it's clean and fresh. We go a little bit further. So now in the secondaries, I go to the curves, hue versus sat. I take the blue and I lower down the saturation. Maybe something like that. Before and after. It is subtle, but it's there, and now it's more naturalistic, and we don't lose the power of this blue tone. Very nice. I play it through. This looks good. So now in the adjustment node, I think I will brighten up the image a little bit just with the gain wheel to be subtle. So we see a little bit more, and the brightest part are even brighter without losing the force. So now with the lock wheel, with the shadow wheel, because we introduced a little bit of gain, I will lower it down the black level so we don't lose the contrast that defines the power. Now the next one, I will do a simply copy paste to see what happens. Yeah, the brightness, the contrast is okay, but not the color. So this one is more greenish, and this one it's more, yeah, bluish. Yeah. So here in the adjustment nodes, I make just a parallel node, and with the offset wheel, I just introduce a little bit of blue, or let's say I go away from green. So I put a little bit of red in it and a little bit of blue, like that. Now I go into blue, something like that. Let's check. Before and after, before and after. Let's check if they match. Yes, that's good. Again, just to be sure. Maybe a little bit brighter. Here with the gain wheel, a little bit brighter, so it's really glowing, and the force of the water is more obvious. Yes, that's good. Maybe a little bit more in the other node here, more blue, just a little bit. Before with the green tone and now with the blue tone, it should match. Yes, perfect. So now it's really strong, the power of the water. And now to this one. So now she is together with the nature. So what I don't want to do is to set her in the main focus. So of course she's there, now she is on her journey. I want also here the power of the nature. So the nature will still be the main focus. So I darken down the image quite a bit. With the offset wheel, I weigh down quite a bit, something like that. So before and after, before and after. I go even further, something like that. So now she's here, but the sky and the mountains are the main focus. That's good. Now with the white balance, I will get rid of this greenish tone and I will put some blue in it. So we have again this freshness and this force of the nature. So I put a little bit of blue in it. So let's check it out. I will make that with the offset wheel. So I go a little bit warmer, then I go to the bluish tones, something like that, a little bit of cyan, not too much cyan, maybe like that. Before with the green tones, you see that especially down here, if you take a look, and after, before and after. So now we lose a little bit of the color of the grass, so it has a blue tint, but we don't want to lose that. So we have still this natural feeling and not like a grade, let's say. So with the next node, I go with the lock wheels, with the black levels. Down here, I will implement some red or yellow, I don't know yet, I have to look on the screen, but some warm tones, so we lose this bluish tint down there. I show it full screen, like that. And now with the lock wheel, I go down here just a little bit, maybe like that. Before and after, before and after. It's a huge difference. So we don't lose this bluish tint that we gave, and we still have color separation and naturalistic feeling. What I will do is here I will lower it down the low range of the shadow, so we don't use too much of red in the mountain. Maybe something like that. Let's check. That's great. We have a nice color separation and a cool naturalistic look. In the last note, I will guide again the viewer's eye, something like that, invert it, and then with the gain I will darken it down to create more depth and more focus for the audience. Maybe it's too strong, something like that. Maybe a little bit more blue, something like that. Yes, that's good. Now this picture here, as you can see already on your screen and on the scopes, especially here in the vector scope, we have a huge magenta purpley tint. So my goal will be to focus mainly on skin tones, that her skin tone looks good, and of course this whole section here will be in the center of the vector scope, because in the center it's white and black, and when you have something in there, then you know you have neutral tones. If it is black or white, it doesn't matter, because in my case, because I don't have really white, so I focus only on black, but technically speaking, but I will concentrate on skin tone to white balance this shot. But first, exposure. I will only with the gain introduce a little bit of brightness, maybe something like that. Let's check this out. Yes, it's enough. So before and after. Then the biggest part is the white balance. So now I go away from this bluish purpley tone, so I introduce a lot of yellow, something like that, a little bit of red, skin tone starting looking good. I go even further just to check out if I can do better, even more, even too much, something like that is nice. Before and after, so huge different with the offset wheel. That's why it's so important in such cases to focus on skin tones, because now the image looks good, and I don't care much about the black levels or white level, because if the skin looks good, everything else will automatically look good. So before and after. Now I go into hue versus sat, and I will introduce a lot of blue, so we don't lose the force of the nature, because this is what the director wanted. Look at that, something like that. Before and after. So now the nature is again the main focus, let's say. And now our skin tones look still very good. I will finesse it. So I go back. What I will do is in the hue versus sat to decrease the saturation, because if you look closely under the nose here and on her upper lip, we have too much saturation for my taste. So everything has the same saturation strongness. So I decrease it before and after, before and after. So now it's more even, the skin tones, by desaturate the color. Let's put it that way. Now it's even better. Before it was something like that, and now I push it down, and now the skin tone looks really, really good. Then I put a vignette to focus on her a little bit more, and in the meantime, by lowering it down, the background gets stronger. Maybe like that. Let's check. Before and after, before and after. And now I will finesse the look. So now in the next note with the gamma wheel, I'll try to put a little bit more cyan in it because we have too much blue, purple blue, and I don't like that. Plus, if I put a little bit more cyan in it, it will benefit on her skin tones and on the concept of the freshness of the nature. So I will put it with the gamma wheel, something like that. It's minor, but it's there. Before and after, before and after. And I'm pretty happy with that. Yes, these are not chronological. So this part here is in the morning and now here it's a little bit later. So don't get confused. But I really like this one. Let's switch off everything apart from the Rec 709. Before and after we did a lot. That's good. Next one. Now she's again in the hotel of Cervo, and now again this is her retreat and she should feel calm and secure. So I take this note here as a reference, so I copy paste like that, and now I switch off the note that I don't need now. So this mask here and this mask here. So I will focus on exposure first. So in the adjustment node, maybe I need more. Let's check it out. With the gain wheel, because I want to make subtle changes, I brighten up the image a little bit. That's too strong, something like that. So before and after. Yeah, the white balance is okay. Maybe she needs a little bit more contrast. So in the same note, I introduce with the contrast knob here a little bit more contrast. Before and after, before and after. That's good. Maybe a little bit brighter. Yes, something like that. And now I will focus on her skin because we have something to do there. Because we have a lot of magenta here or reddish tones. Here not so, but then on the forehead again, on the nose again, and everything else down here, it's pretty solid. So we want to finesse that. So I go to the hue versus hue. Now I will push the red tone into yellow, and we see already a huge difference. Before and after, before and after. But I don't want to implement too much of greenish tones. So with the middle line here, I will introduce again a little bit of red. And you see now here in the vector scope how we compress really the color of her skin. Something like that. So before you look at the skin, look at the vector scope first. Before and after. So we really compressed the colors. So the color looks more even. Before and after. Before and after. Now what we have is too much saturation. So first I will optimize the skin tone even further. So maybe something like that. Even compress it more. So look at the vector scope, before and after, and now here, before and after. Now it's like one single color more or less, and that looks good on her. So now I go to the hue versus sat, and now with the red color I lower down the saturation quite a bit, maybe something like that. So before and after, before and after. Now she has a really nice skin. Before, too much variation, and now it's solid. Let's go. I even try to desaturate the color a little bit more, something like that. So before and after. And now we are on the last shot. So this is obviously also a landscape shot, so we want to focus on the force and the power of the nature and to keep it clean and cool and pretty naturalistic. So with the offset wheel, I go a little bit down. Now I want to make it a little bit brighter with the gain wheel to increase a little bit the contrast, not too much. Something like that to brighten up a little bit the image. So before and after, it's subtle, but the sky is starting to take power. So now in the next note, I will with the lock wheel increase the contrast with the same technique like I did in the water shots, that I increase the contrast only on the deepest black level and on the brightest part of the image. So I go to the lock wheel, and in the shadow I go like 2 point, let's say 5, why not? I go a little bit down, not too much. Before and after, so by darkening it down the foreground, so the darkest part, the mountains and the sky. With the high range, I lower it down quite a bit, maybe 3.8, let's say, if it is enough, because the image is pretty dark and the lock wheel has to take this signal here. So I brighten it up, let's say if it works. Yes, a little bit, maybe like that. Yes, maybe I have to lower it down a little bit more. Before and after, before and after. So you may say, yeah, but why you don't use the contrast knob? Because like that, I really don't change the gamma. So the contrast of the sky and of the mountains back there, it doesn't change. It's only the highest brightness of the image and the lowest darkest part, and this makes the look so special and so intense when we are speaking about the force of the nature, before and after. But we go further. So now what I don't like is this purple feeling here. So I want to introduce a little bit more of cyan. I will do that with the gamma wheel. Like that, it's more than enough. Before and after, before and after. So the mountains gets this cyan fresh look. So before and after. And then with the secondary correction, so with the hue versus sat down here, I introduce a lot of red, and then I desaturate the blue, so really the reddish tone becomes more dominant. The magenta, I don't need that, but maybe something like that. Yes, maybe like that. Before and after. As you see, by subtracting the blue and reinforce the red, we have now a very strong warm power, because we don't need these bluish tones to increase the force. We need now for this particular look the reddish highlights. So before and after, before and after. Then down here I make a mask. Then I track it. I will soften it out, inward. Then with the hue versus sat, I will decrease the saturation, so the background is really the main focus. Before and after, before and after. I hope you see that on YouTube, but we really decreased the saturation in the grass, so the background is more dominant. A subtle adjustment, but this helps. And now at the end, with the vignette, I will reinforce the surrounding, so the landscape, and we make the look even stronger by darkening it down a little bit. So before and after, maybe I have to change a little bit the shape so it gets more intense in the sky. Before and after, and now I made an outside note here, like that. If you don't know how to do it, right mouse click, add note, add outside note. So we have now an alpha channel and the mask is inverted. So on the first one I changed outside the node the exposure, and now it inverted automatically. And here with the gamma gain, no, with the gain, let's say, because I don't want to make it softer. So with the gain, I brighten up a little bit the center of the image. So the center, it's more dominant and more powerful. So without the vignettes and with the vignettes. So we relighted a little bit the image. Before and after, huge difference. And this is the final look we did. And this is it, guys. Now to my biggest mistake I did in my colorist career. When I saw for the first time the footage, I was so obsessed of a look idea that I had some time ago. And I thought, yes, finally the final project where I can implement that look. I created it and it was bad. It was bad because it didn't fit the story. I didn't care about the briefing. I just made a look that I wanted always to create. So I sent it to the director. Of course, he didn't like it. So he sent me again the briefing, explained me everything again. And I was so disappointed about myself that I deleted every note and I started from scratch. And I focused only on story and I focused only to keep it simple. So I sent it again to the director and he loved it. There was some 2 or 3 secondary minor adjustments and that's it. So now you know why I always say focus always on story and keep it simple. Because if you want to create impactful images that touches the audience, your color grading needs context. If you just make a look, it has no soul. It needs story and you have to implement that story in your look. That's how you create impactful images that touches the audience. And on this particular project, as you have seen, I kept it simple and I focused only on story. And this particular project was shortlisted at the Colorist Awards 2021. And this year, 13th of April, the winner will be announced. To the director Mauro Binderovic and DOP Sven Lerchen, just in case you are watching, thank you very much for trusting me this particular and sensitive project. And thank you again for letting me grade the second and final version. Guys, I hope you learned something today and don't forget to subscribe and be ready for the next look breakdown. And like I always say, focus always on story and keep it simple, and you will be rewarded.